regarding comparable properties, when we're doing like comparable in the sense of like having two homes and one home has three bedrooms and the other home has four bedrooms, doing subjective, and could you just explain that a little bit, please?
Yeah, another important topic. Okay. All right. So comparable properties versus subject property. So subject property is always the property that we are trying to find the value for, right? So let's say you have a seller who approaches you, they want to list the property. So we need to figure out how much they should be listing their property or we should be listing their property for, right? So remember, seller always sets the price for the properties. Okay. So, and then also keep in mind, seller is always the one who decides which offer they're going to accept, which offer they're going to counter, how they want to handle the offers. We don't decide that, seller decides that. Always keep that in mind. Okay, so going back to the question on hand. So comparable versus subject properties. So comparable is the property that has sold, recently sold, right? So in order to figure out how much what price we should put on a property, we need to look at what properties have sold, how many properties have sold in the neighborhood recently in the last 1 to 3 months, how much they sold for, and based on that, we can figure out the value for our subject property. So we have two properties, right? If this is our subject property and our comparable property is superior than our subject property, then we would have to lower the price. We deduct let's say this one has 3 bedrooms, this one has 4 bedrooms, right? So we will deduct the cost of 1 bedroom from this to figure out the price for our subject property. Okay, so we always make addition or subtraction to the price of comparable properties because we have a price for comparable properties. We don't have a price for subject property. So adjustments are never done to the subject property. They're always done to comparable. So if our comparable is superior than our subject property, then we reduce from the price. So we make a negative adjustment to make it equal. Okay, so on the other hand, if our subject property has 3 garages, the comparable property that's sold in the neighborhood only has 2 garages, right? There's only so many like lots that can fit a triple garage. So if our subject property has triple garage, a comparable that in the same neighborhood, same lane has sold for, let's say, 500,000, but ours has triple garage, this one only has 2 garages, then we add the 20,000, the cost of whatever the cost of additional garages to this to make it equal, so we can find out the price for our property, right? Our subject property. So if the subject property is superior than the comparable, then we make a positive adjustment. If our subject property is inferior to a comparable, then we make a negative adjustment to the price of the comparable property.
So if we have a comparable home that we are selling, so after a comparable home, it has 3 bedrooms. And then the subjective home has 4 bedrooms. Do we need to, so basically we're making a positive adjustment to the subjective property?
No, we can never make an adjustment to the subject property because we don't have a price for that property, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So our subject property is X. That's our variable. We don't know what the price is, but the comparable property we have a price for because it's sold, right? So we know the price that it's sold for. So that's why adjustments are always made to the comparable properties and never to the subject property because we don't have a price. So we can't deduct anything from it and we can't add anything from it because, yeah, it doesn't have a price.
Okay, so if a seller comes to us and says they want to sell their house for 350,000, but when we looked at the comparative at the market analysis, we found out that the other homes were selling for like 325, but they want to go for 350. We still agree to that?
Yeah, so this is from practical perspective, it's becomes a bit challenging. So what we would have to do in this case is we would have to say, hey, look at the comparables. This is where the comparables are selling and you have the exact same type of property. So we recommend, in our opinion, you list the property for, let's say, so they want to list it for 550, based on the comparables are selling at 500, right? So we would say, we recommend that you list it at 500 because that's the current market value of your property. If you list it for 550, nobody's going to, like, people are not going to come look at it. If they look at it, they will think it's overpriced. And then, you know, another property that's reasonably priced will sell. So it won't sell. It will sit in the market. It will, and which is not the most effective thing for it to do. But then the seller insists they want to list it for 550. Then we don't have a choice. We have to follow our client's legal instructions. In this case, it's 550, and then we can have a plan with them and say, okay, let's try it out for 2 weeks. And if it doesn't sell, then maybe we can adjust the price, or we can consider. We can have another conversation on price adjustment. And then, yeah. So a lot of times sellers will think their property is worth more than what the comparables are. So our job is to educate them. If they still insist, then we list it for what they want us to.